Hi, good morning. Thank you for joining me. Luis Alagarza here again. Today we'll be discussing Christian denomination, which began in the mid 19th century. The Mormon faith is one of the most interesting and fascinating of the denominations that arose during that time period because they also helped facilitate the expansion of the West or Western migration. Under the auspices of manifest destiny, we begin to see a pattern of moving westward. So, what ends up happening is they are one of the first pioneering group that decides to move westward with other families. Before, of course, we have that policy, that U.S. policy regarding settlement to the west. Before, of course, the Moral Land Act and the Homestead Act. So it's very important to understand what they facilitated. Now, the Mormons themselves moved west because they were being persecuted by other fellow Christians. They have a different um, doctrine as opposed to the one that the other Christian denominations had. One of them, of course, was at that time being polygamy, and that is no longer a practice that is utilized. But back in that day, it was one of their main principal tenets. And as a result, what starts happening is they will be persecuted for it. Joseph Smith and his brother will be killed, and whereby Brigham Young will take over the flock and decide to move them out of Nauvoo, Illinois, and heading westward outside of U.S. control. What becomes very interesting is they move into an area which becomes known as Salt Lake City today, modern day Salt Lake. Back then, it was controlled by the Mexican government, so they felt that by moving there, they would no longer be persecuted. Um, as a result of the end of the Mexican American War under the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, all that territory will be ceded to the United States. So, whereby the Mormons are going to be found or located once again under U.S. authority or American authority. So, as a result, we see splinter groups of these people who decide to move into Mexico. We have Senator Romney, Mitt Romney, whose family still, resides in Mexico. They still practice their Mormon faith, and they continue to live there for that fear of persecution. Now, one of the things that we have seen, we talk about religious freedom being a central tenet of the American democracy and democratic practices. So it's very interesting to see how this particular group of people was persecuted even during a time where we had already attained religious liberty. And as a result, what they have to go through to continue to practice their way of life. And if you look at Christianity as a whole, Christians have, been martyred through the ages, and the first wave of Christians, of course, were martyred for their faith. So, if you happen to be a Mormon, you tend to look at this flight by the Mormon faith by Brigham Young as one that, of course, helps establish not only their church as a whole, but it creates, a modern day system of saints or sainthood due to their plight and the martyrdom by fellow Christians. So this is one of the reasons why this becomes one of the most interesting denominations of the 19th century. I myself am a practicing Catholic, and I really find a lot of um, interest in the different denominations because it lends credence to the overall theme of Christianity and God, Jesus Christ as our Savior. So it makes very, very good sense to learn about the different denominations and what we can take out of them. For a believer that we should be able to get something positive, a particular, whether it's one note, one particular strand of every different denomination, and we can utilize it in our daily lives so as to help us become better Christians. There is no right or wrong per se. We all have that ability to worship Christ as we will. And as the Puritans said, of course, wanted to create and establish that. But other than that, I think that Mormonism, and as it's spread out, has been very interesting. And of course, it's become an international Christian denomination, which is important in and of itself. Once again, thank you for joining me. Have a wonderful week. God bless you.